Did President Donald Trump say he will pay for the entire July 4th parade in Washington out of his own pocket? No, that's not true. The story was published by a liberal satire website that tries to educate gullible Trump supporters and Republicans about the need to actually click and read links before sharing or liking them in order to avoid being embarrassed by fans of the site later. All the events described in the article are not real and meant as humor and social commentary, but we are sure the story will soon be copied by various fake news sites being run out of places like Macedonia and Pakistan, who will then peddle it as real news. The story originated from an article published by Taters Gonna Tate on July 3, 2019 titled "President Trump, I Will Pay for July 4th Parade Out of My Own Pocket," which opened, quote, "The liberal press hasn't been able to stop talking about the price tag of the July 4th extravaganza that will be hosted by President Trump in and around the National Mall tomorrow. All that's been heard from them is boo-hoo. $90 million. Taxpayers on the hook. Blah blah blah. Not once have they taken the time to marvel at and thank our president for putting together the greatest celebration of our nation's independence ever seen. But now they can stop their crying." In an announcement that came as a surprise only to the Democrats, the White House tells us that President Trump will pay the full price tag for the event out of his own pocket. End quote. Users on social media only saw this title, description and thumbnail. Quote, "President Trump, I will pay for July 4th parade out of my own pocket." The liberal press hasn't been able to stop talking about the price tag of the July 4th extravaganza that will be hosted by President Trump in and around the National Mall tomorrow. All that and number 82, end quote. It was literally published in the category satire and/or conservative fan fiction. The stock image used with the story shows a parade in New York from 2009. Quote, "Stock photo, Sector New York marches down 5th Avenue." Download this stock image. Sector New York marches down 5th Avenue D4KBGF from Alame's library of millions of high-resolution stock photos, illustrations and vectors. End quote. The site is part of the America's Last Line of Defense network of satire websites run by self-professed liberal troll Christopher Blair from Maine, along with a loose confederation of friends and allies. Blair has been in a feud with fact-checking website Snopes for some time now and has also criticized other fact-checkers in the past who labeled his work fake news instead of satire. In reaction to this, he has recently rebranded all his active websites and Facebook pages so they carry extremely visible disclaimers everywhere. Every site in the network has an About page that reads, in part, quote, "About satire before you complain and decide satire is synonymous with comedy, sat-ire sati, renounce use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. Everything on this website is fiction. It is not a lie and it is not fake news because it is not real. If you believe that it is real, you should have your head examined. Any similarities between this site's pure fantasy and actual people, places, and events are purely coincidental, and all images should be considered altered and satirical. See above if you're still having an issue with that satire thing." End quote. Articles from Blair's sites frequently get copied by real fake news sites who often omit the satire disclaimer and any other hints the stories are fake. Blair has tried to get these sites shut down in the past, but new ones keep cropping up. Blair and his operation were profiled by The Washington Post on November 17, 2018 by Eli Saslow. Quote, "Nothing on this page is real. How lies become truth in online America." November 17. The only light in the house came from the glow of 3 computer monitors, and Christopher Blair, 46, sat down at a keyboard and started to type. His wife had left for work and his children were on their way to school, but waiting online was his other community, an unreality where nothing was exactly as it seemed. End quote. If you are interested in learning more about Blair and the history of his sites, here is something to get you started. Quote, "The ultimate Christopher Blair and America's Last Line of Defense reading list, lead stories story updated, check for updates below." Yesterday, Eli Saslow at The Washington Post wrote a fantastic article about Christopher Blair, a man from Maine who has been trolling conservatives and Trump supporters online for years and occasionally even made a living out of it. End quote.